The presentation was recorded live in Las Vegas, Nevada for the 27th Annual International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape 25, Digital Music.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see everybody here. This is an education panel. We're going to just talk to you a little bit about music and an alternative method of getting music to you, the end user, the square dance caller, the round dance cuer, the dance professional. My name is Pat Carnathan. I'm from San Diego. I'm a co-owner, producer for Shakedown Records. I've been a musician for about 30 years and a square dance caller for 19 years. And I bring with me a couple of panelists from New Hampshire, Bill Hyman, who brings 22 years of professional calling experience. As most of you know, he's also the owner of Supreme Audio. He's going to talk to you a little bit about the same sort of thing. And Don Wood from Washington, who's been calling for 19 years. He's going to talk to you about it. Don's also a record producer for Lumac Records. So, having said that, my portion of the presentation will be towards the end, so I'm going to sit back and listen to Bill and Don talk.
You have written things.
We're very organized today. Can you see me if I'm sitting down, or would you like me to stand? I don't want to... Thank you.
You had to know that was coming.
I
Bill.
believe that is what's referred to as somewhat predictable. For those of you on the tape, I'm very short. Anyway, I know it's not visualization. I'd like to make a couple of brief comments today, and once again, none of the things that I say today are commercial from Peggy or my perspective, but really are talking industry-wide. They're relevant to all of the vendors in the industry. They're relevant to all of the callers and cuers in the industry, and we're really on the threshold. The MP technology has been around 4-ish years, something like that, and one of the things that has just happened that in the last year, this thing has really accelerated beyond belief. One of the questions when I talk about digital music and mini discs and MP3s, everybody always asks, well, aren't you killing the vinyl business or the record business? And the simple answer is no single vendor can do anything to change anything in any of the technologies or buying categories. All we can do is really respond to what's happening in the market. And what's happening in the market is that digital technology is simply here. It is a reality, and those of us who are in business obviously want to deal with that and hopefully be on the cutting edge of it and also serve you, the customers. And once again, my comments are industry-wide, not company-specific. You all know the history of square dancing audio. We went through the 78s and the 45s. I don't think any wire tape recorders ever got involved in the industry. CDs, now we're into the mini discs and so forth, a tape obviously in the middle there. And all of those things are very well known too, so I really don't want to dwell on them. One of the questions that comes up is, well, if all of this happens, what's going to happen to vinyl? I have a personal opinion on this based on a number of factors. Number one, based on the economics involved in this industry, based on inventory, if you will, or the fleet of records and the fleet of Hilton sound systems, Newcombs and Caliphones and everything else that are out in the field. And the reality is that based on the relatively modest revenue stream coming in, it is simply a reality that the vast majority of callers are not going from one day to the next to dump their vinyl, dump their current record sound systems, record playing sound systems, and go to another form of sound. I just don't think realistically, technically it's possible, but I think that financially it's simply not a reality. One of the key things in this whole digital technology is one of the problems that record producers such as Pat and Don and all the others have been saddled with over the years. You have huge music creation costs. You have first finding your title, getting your artists, dealing with the music, whether you're on a MIDI, even in the pre-digital era, if you will, using music that you can create yourself, or whether you're going, as some of the record producers do, going to Nashville and hiring top union musicians. There are really great costs in there. Then once you have that DAT tape or audio tape, you then have to take it, get a lacquer master made. They make the pressing, the stampers, they make the vinyl. The labels have to be printed, the sleeves, it has to be packed, it has to be counted. The inserts have to be put in them, they have to be shipped. Damage and shipment, inventory control, handling, incoming, checking it in on the shelf and physically delivering it to deliver it back out to you. Those are huge expenses, and what I think really is the promise of longer-term implications for digital audio is that it will hopefully, over time, really reduce the cost of music to you. And one of the things that has come about, and it's certainly been here since the advent of tape recorders, really, and that is copying, or read that as illegal copying of music. And I will put it to you very simply. I'm not standing here in moral judgment of anybody, but I think from a very practical point of view, our community has to make a very fundamental decision. We either pay a fair price for our music now and not copy illegally by whatever medium you're using, and have music in the future because there's a financial incentive for the producers to continue to produce, or the music is going to get stolen now. Read that as a disincentive to record producers. And I can't think of a good reason why somebody would go out and spend good money, be it in digital or vinyl, good money to produce good music, to provide it to you, to us, when there's no financial incentive in it, long term. Everybody knows that there are very few record producers who've made a huge amount of money in this business. It is really very much, and I know there's some big smiles here, it's very much a service business, and record producers have always been hard-pressed to generate real income. Perhaps in the heart of the end of the 60s into the early 70s, when they were selling 5 and 10 and 15,000 of a top tune, it is certainly a reality that at that point in time there was actually some serious money being made by some individuals. That has clearly not been the case since 1978 when I started calling, 82 when I got into business, and 86, 87 when I got seriously into the record business. That clearly has not been the case now, or case since then. The key to this thing is that we all as a community have to make a decision. Do we want to pay a proper, fair price for music going into the future, or do we want to steal it? And one of the problems with this kind of technology is, it is now, as you will see as Pat flips files and everything here, it is becoming easier than ever to steal music. It's already happened with the mini disc. I know some of you have been at festivals and they have a little, a circle around the table where mini discs or whatever are being passed. I had one caller who called me, I'll leave him unnamed, who was really very offended that a very well-known caller wanted to borrow his fleet of mini discs to go back up to his hotel room and start copying and doing everything else. These things are in fact going on. You know they're going on. I'm not pointing at anybody here, but they are going on now, and we have to recognize it. And this is really, I think, a very, very decisive point in time for us. The example that I'd like to use on intellectual property is, you're hired by Club ABC, Square Dance Club, to call the mainstream class this year. You do your CALLERLAB 30 weeks, 2.5 hours. You do a great class. You graduate 22 students, and the president of the club has been running a tape recorder every night of the class, numbered neatly, class 1, class 2, through class 30. Do I have to finish this paragraph? And comes the next year, and you say, boy, I'm sure looking forward to the start of next season. And the club president says, what next season? I got your tape now. I'm just going to play your tape. Now we know, because we're experienced people, we know that's not an effective way to teach in any event, but the example is there. You know how you would feel about it if you did a festival on a weekend, they made a recording of it using whatever method it is, and there you are. Just one or two other things wanted to talk about. The question comes up, why mini disc? Why not CDs? What are some of the options on it? The realities are that CDs, by the nature of their thing, and I'm not talking about CDs recorded on your own machine where you're buying your own rewritable or one-time recordable CD, which is very inexpensive, but I'm talking about a producer producing a large volume of CDs. It is feasible to do in smaller runs where the producer can produce that CD themselves. If they're doing it as the only medium through which they're distributing the music, having it professionally made, it is simply too expensive. Just doing the math on it, anybody who's dealt with CDs know that it's just a different cost structure, with or without reason. The fact is, it is a different cost structure. What I'd like to do is just let you know that there are a couple of things that are going on now that if I had had 2 more days before I took off to come here, I would have had it, and Pat's going to touch on it later. The night before I left, I put the first music samples up on our website. They are not linked to it yet. I'll do it on Thursday or Friday when I get home. But we will have some samples up there. They are slightly too large at the very moment, and we've been talking about technologies, how to drop file size and so forth down. But we will have clickable music as of Thursday on our website that you can get some samples, and it will also be on a page where, not quite this week, but very, very shortly, you'll be able to, in fact, listen to the music and order vinyl in some cases, and in other cases, order an MP3, and Pat's going to talk about that now, and that's probably a good segue point for me. Don or Pat?
He's going to be last, I think.
Okay.
What he said. How many are producing records here? I know I saw Daryl and I saw Sonia. How many are going broke? Don't be afraid to raise your hand. It happens. Bill said the record producing business in and of itself is a non-profit organization. That's a real statement. We did some cost-benefit analysis here a while back and found our profit margin on the first cut of records was 1 penny. That's really high. In some cases, if you don't get a good sell, you don't even get it down that low. The music business has changed. You can spend anywhere from, if you're a creative genius like Pat, a small amount of money to create music that's really good. Or if you're a lot like me, you get somewhere in the middle and you hire somebody that's really good to make some pretty good music. Or if you're like Tony, you go to Nashville and pay the very best to put out really, really good music. But it has a cost. Now, you're paying right now someplace between $4.50 and $5 per record, if I'm not mistaken, right? And your budget probably over the years has decreased significantly on what you used to spend. How many had standing orders for Chaparral Rhythm and, things that used to come out? You used to get them in standing orders, right? We don't do that anymore. Why? Can't do all the records that come out? Don't like all the tunes that come out? In the advent of the digital world, today, it's possible to listen to a tune and pick up a phone, dial Handhurst, dial Palomino, and order the songs. I've heard this much of it, I know I can do that. Okay, that's my kind of music, it fits me. That's the beginning step, I believe. The advent of the next step is to listen to the tune on your computer and say, yeah, I really like that. Put it in your shopping cart and download it. Put it on your mini disc. Then you've got a file that you can take to your dance and do. And Tony said you don't do it the first night, I think. So, keep that in mind. Never ever do it the first night. How many of you callers, lady callers especially, hear music you really like and you can't do because it's too low, too high, out of your pitch? Well, or male callers, you have pitch shifters now that you can go out and buy, but with a computer, it can be finite. You can put it in a key that you like. You can take your MP3 file, convert it to a WAV file, put it in a key you like, convert it back to MP3, and put it right back out, and you're doing it. How many of the callers forget lyrics or make up your own as you go like I do? Wouldn't you like to have a program that's like karaoke? So you push the button on your laptop, you look down there and say, I want to do this song. You pick it out, you push the button, it plays through your PA system, and up come the words. So you don't have to make up the words. That's real today. Round Dance Curious use it. I use it. It's a good tool to have. I don't have a good memory. So I know that Pat's going to take you into the hows we get there. But I will tell you it's on the advent. We are there. We're coming along as it goes. The cost of vinyl is becoming prohibitive. Some of us are going to stay in the vinyl business to a reduced level. Some of us are not. We're going to just produce digital music. But tomorrow's Square Dance Caller will be using it some way, some form, in some shape, either through a mini disc, through a variable speed CD, or through a digital download. With that, Mr. Pat Carnathan.
I don't have anything to say. I don't know. This traveling salesman, he goes to a farm, and... Oh, never mind. Both Bill and I typed out handouts for everybody, so almost everything that we've spoken about today is on paper. So if you're out there frantically taking notes, chill out. We'll give you the handouts at the end of the session. Because if we gave them to you at the beginning of the session, you'd all be sitting there reading them right now. There's nobody's denying it. Okay, you got us, Pat, all right. I'm a former record producer, and I'm kind of sort of getting back into it because, and I'm going to reiterate a little bit what Bill and Don talked about. It's hugely expensive to produce a song. Okay, you can make a square dance song on your Casio tone and record it and get it out there, okay? You may even sell a couple. You can go to Nashville and spend literally $10,000 producing a single song. And you may or may not sell a zillion of them. Anybody out there who's produced a record, it is a crapshoot. You don't know. It's the coolest song in the world. Your spouse thinks you're a god or a goddess when you sing it. All your friends love it. You sold 8. And then there's another song, you've got the master on, you're like, this thing's just burning a hole in my pocket. I'm going to go ahead and produce it. Next thing you know, Bill's calling you, Tom's calling you, going, I need more copies. I sold them on the... What the hell are they using them for? So you just don't know. You can't tell. And to be perfectly honest, I own a recording studio, so I can record my music for comparatively inexpensively. I play most instruments except for guitars. I play guitars poorly, so I pay people who play guitars well. So I can produce a square dance song for a couple $100. It's all well and good. Then I drop $800 to $1,200 pressing vinyl. And the folks over at United Record Pressing reserve the right to raise the price on pressing vinyl whenever they want. I don't know if the new Porsches come out and they go, well, we're gonna do another nickel out of Carnathan on those records. So I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit just a moment here. So a couple of years ago, I gave up on it. But being not a real serious tech head, but kind of paying attention to the news and everything, I see MP3 out there. And I thought, if I make a digital master, why press vinyl? I mean, you go to the dances, how many people are using MDs at your dances? Look at that. Okay, now here's the deal. I can produce a song, I can send it to the distributor, they can put it at their website, they can put it on their tape service that you guys can hear it and listen to it on the way to the dance, which is when I listen to my tape on the way to the dance. And you like it, you get home from the gig, you log on, you download it, you use it the next night at the dance. It's that cool. You didn't pay shipping charges. Okay? If you don't like it, okay, so you still spent a couple of bucks. Potentially the music to you, the end user, could be cheaper, could be less expensive. All right? As a producer, it's going to cost me less to get my music out to you. I'm going to lower my price. I'm here to tell you. Okay? It's going to be cheaper. If I don't have to press vinyl, and Bill alluded to it, there's other things other than pressing vinyl. You got to do your discs, the little paper things in the middle. You got to press sleeves, or you got to do the cue sheets and stick them in. They got to be real cue sheets, not those cheesy ones that say "Four ladies chain, roll away, Alaman left and weave." They got to be real cue sheets with words on them. Hint. Subtlety's never been my strong suit. You notice I'm not on the BOG. That's it. That's it.
And you won't be.
Darn. I am crushed. Anyways, so what I thought I would do, I digitized 4 of my songs. I digitized all my songs. I've been using compact discs, real CDs, to take to square dances for 4 years now. I haven't taken a 45 RPM record to a square dance in 4 years. Okay, I live in Southern California. Summertime goes from early February to right about Thanksgiving, and it's very hot in the back of your car. You leave your equipment in the back of the car, you leave your records in the back of the car in Southern California, you're going to be digital in a week or so. I can guarantee it. So anyways, it's been really cool for me, but to be perfectly honest, it's a lot of people have been really leery of it. Okay, they say, well, what about variable speed? You can't slow down and speed up your Walkman. Well, how often do I change the speed of my records at the dance? Not very often. There's a couple of songs that I thought Tony or Ken or somebody recorded a little too fast or a little too slow. So when I recorded them at the speed I wanted them at. I don't do a whole lot of on-the-fly changing of my speed. And I really don't believe not many of you people do either. Okay, so record them at the speed you like them. Anyways, so we're going to take a quick look at a couple of files. And by the way, don't bother to take notes. I'm in college, so I typed a term paper for you people. Okay? 2 sides, 11-point, single-spaced. Okay? Try to contain yourselves. All right? This here is a directory of one of my drives. These down here are WAV files. I don't know if you can see my pointer real well. It's down here at the bottom. But a WAV file is actually the industry standard for digitizing music. When you buy a CD of Garth Brooks or something like that at Warehouse Records, those files are effectively WAV files. Now, granted, you tech heads out there are going to go, no, it's not. It is. Okay, it really is. And they're monsters. 39, well, almost 40 megabytes of space gets burned up to digitize a song.
For those of you on the old XTs, that's 4 hard drives.
Or 25 floppies if you've got a lot of... Yeah, I got my records, Pat. Here we go. And unless you're one of these really cool people with a cable or a satellite modem, you're not going to download 40 megabytes anytime soon. You better be prepared to order out for pizza a couple of times. All right? So it's thoroughly impractical to try to download a WAV file that's 3.5 minutes long, and that's what a square dance singing call generally is. About 3.5, almost 4 minutes in length. It's not going to work. You take that file, not you, but anybody can take that file from a piece of free software and change it into an MP3 file. If you look at the song Close to You, as the WAV file is nearly 40 megabytes, the same file in MP3 is 2.6 megabytes. And there's nothing wrong with the sound quality. I mean, keep in mind, we used to use vinyl, so let's not talk about sound quality, okay? In addition, you know, there's all kinds of logistics things here. You're thinking, well, so I download the song. What about the cue sheet? Well, by golly, we'll give you the cue sheet. Most of you use Microsoft Word or something comparable. We'll probably send these out in a rich text format. Here's cue sheet. We'll download it to you. That's nothing. That'll go so fast your head will spin. And I might add. Now, see, Bill and I are having a minor disagreement here on what we think constitutes a cue sheet. Bill says, and unfortunately I think he's right, but Bill says that a cue sheet should have all the calls on it. You know, parentheses, circle left, and then a little asterisk. Why do birds suddenly appear every time something, something, something? Left out a man, do, si, do, like a caller's not going to be able to look at it and go, God, what do I say here? What to do? Anyways, a cue sheet for me, hint, would say use these lyrics when you're doing the opener, and use these lyrics when you're using the middle break. But anyways, be that as it may, that's how fast it can happen. I'm going to shut word down here. Okay? Say, for instance, it's a song that you like the tune, you've heard it a couple times, but you're not entirely certain how it goes. You know? So what we do, you know how when you're listening to your tape service, you get a little bit of the caller singing the opener and singing the first figure sometimes. Maybe if there's a key change, you get to hear a little bit of that too. We're here to help you. Okay? I don't recall what song this is. No, let's do this one.
Man, it's a hot one. Like 7 inches.
So now you get a chance to hear the caller singing the tune.
Left out a mag and back it goes side
You
door.
can see the size of those files.
And I left to weave the red.
They were so small they downloaded in about 2 minutes each. This is just a sample vocal. This is the
My
caller
Spanish
singing the
Harlem
tune.
Mona Lisa. You're my reason for reason. You're the step in my groove. And now the head square.
And it fades back into the middle break, I hope. Did you shorten it, Bill? Yeah, we trimmed that one. Okay, so we don't get to hear the middle break. That was just Charlie Robertson singing, so you probably don't want to hear it anyways. Hi, Charlie. Oh, it's- Got a Walkman in my pocket. Well, actually, these files are sitting on one of my hard drives. When you download them, when you try to download a file, and some of you have done this, some of you have, when you download a file, you click on it, and there's going to be a little box that says, what do you want to do with this? Do you want to open this file? Do you want to save it? You click on save. It'll ask you where on your computer you want to save that file. No. Actually, that was my goal when I envisioned this session. I wanted to have a phone line plugged in, and I wanted to download a file right in front of God and everybody and use it. And then we found out what it would cost to have a phone line plugged in here. Yes, it was not pretty. But for the record, I did download, when I took off for this week, it's been really busy. I had the WAV files already on my machine, and obviously I had the cue sheets, because I typed those myself. I could not locate my sample vocals of the callers singing the songs. I tore my hair out. I couldn't locate them. I changed hard drives in the machine, so I was losing it. And Sunday I called Bill at his hotel room here from home, and I said, Bill, tell me you have those files. He goes, can't, because he didn't. Here. No, he's got them. They're really handy. If you walk in the store at Supreme Audio, make a left. It's right there. Anyways, so I went online this morning when he hit the website and downloaded them. I put them on, and I couldn't do it with this computer because this computer was sitting in my truck. So I downloaded them onto a laptop, put them on floppy disks, and then put them on this computer. So there's nothing to it. I mean, it really is a walk in the park. The software to play MP3 files, there's several of them out there. They're free from mp3.com. All right, it's called Music Match. And there's really nothing to it. It's a walk in the park, and you can play the file. And now you're probably thinking, okay, so I've got it on my computer. What do I do with it from there? I can't lug my computer to the Square Dance. All right, your computer undoubtedly has a sound card on it. Take the gazouda of your sound card to the gazinda of your MD. Hit the record button. Have yourself a glass iced tea, and take the song to the dance tonight and use it. Alrighty. We envisioned this session, and I've talked extensively over the last several months to Bill and Don and emailed extensively. We know that sometimes people can be a little fearful of new technology. I mean, Square Dance callers. We've been taking 45 RPM records to Square Dances. MDs, in my opinion, I don't know about MDs. I mean, when Detroit starts selling automobiles with MD players in the dashboard, I will believe that MDs are viable. You need to get out more. That ought to be entertaining on the tape, huh? Anyways, that's about it. My handout is really boring, but it has a lot more information than what I've just given to you, and it's much more serious and straightforward and professional sounding than the way I speak. Hey, what? An MP3 file. Oh, yeah. I'm just going to file. Hey, come back here. What I'm doing right now is opening an MP3 file in Music Match.
That's about it right there.
There they are. Well, if you're ready, play it. And that's coming right out of my PC, out of the sound card. Right now it's going into a turntable so you can all hear it. But we could just as easily dump it into your Sony mini disc and use it at tonight's dance. Okay, the only thing that's going to happen if we ever actually go this route is we're going to put some vinyl pressing people temporarily out of business, which would break my heart. All right, yes.
If you have questions, you have to come to the mic so the people on the tape can hear it, please.
Okay. Come on up to the mic and ask that question, and actually, I'll take care of it for you. Nate.
Nate Bliss. Could you touch on what the possibilities would be with this for pitch and key?
The question was, how can we change the pitch? All right? I don't have a piece of software up and running right now that'll do that. Okay? Actually, I do it with a really gee-whiz bang piece of software, the same software that I use for recording in the recording studio. You're going to have to, I should have researched that a little more, and I apologize for not taking care of that. Don, can you touch on that perhaps?
On the net, there's another piece of free, I like that word, software. It's called Goldwave. Goldwave is a real simple piece of software to use, and it has encoded in it an option to change the pitch. Wow. What happens when we normally change a pitch on a record? How do we change it? Speed it up. What happens to the record? It gets a little higher and it runs a little faster, so the dancers go, but it's in your key. So you got it, right? In this piece of software, you have the option to change pitch while retaining time, retaining tempo. So you can actually raise the pitch by simply selecting the entire, and I do it on a WAV file, and then put it back to MP3 when I get it at the pitch I want it. You select the entire WAV file, you tell your piece of software, tell Goldwave, I'd like to change the pitch. It'll say about what percentage. Well, I do it with little section of the file first, because I'm dealing with a 40 megabyte file. So I take a little section and say, well, I want to play it at this tempo, or this pitch, and see what it sounds like. So I take a sound bite. I play that, and I say, yeah, I like that. That's okay. Or no, I don't. Then I go up and I hit my file undo, and it undoes what it did to me. Then I go back and I try another pitch shift. And when I get it the way I wanted, I select the entire file. I say, change the pitch on this for me. And they say, okay. So it changes my entire pitch without changing the time or tempo. And then I save that as a different file as opposed to my first reference copy, which was my first copy. Because it is digital, I can do that without losing quality. That's important to you. Once you get it where you want, move it back down to your MP3. You're in a 2.7, 2.4 megabyte range, and you have a file that you can deal with. Does that answer the question?
Further answer on that, I'll have a link to Goldwave up probably by Thursday, because I'll have a link to all of these sites up on the website. Their address is goldwave.com. No surprise there. The cost of it, because I happened to download it on Tuesday last week, is $55 Canadian, so take 40 points off of that.
Cliff?
Let me add something. I said it was free. There is a light version that is free. There is a trial version that you can try for so many times, and then you are asked to pay for it.
Tim Mariner, we just heard everything about the pitch. The second part of that question would be the tempo, adjusting tempo.
Well, first of all, you have the option of, if you're talking about a fully digital file, yes, indeed, Goldwave, in fact, will. It has, in this particular, let's assume the situation is this. You've received an MP3 file from Bill on a download. You can bring it up in Goldwave, in this particular file, or in one of the, what do you use, an ACID?
I use Cubase.
No, Cubase? ACID is a... Sorry.
I wasn't even born soon enough for ACID. Come on.
Cubase is one of the more elite pieces of software, very, very extraordinary piece of software, ACID Pro, and some of the others. This is for more of the kind of thing you want to do. I don't think you want to get involved with all the high-end stuff. Some of the software costs upwards of $5,000. I think the $45 range is more my speed. But in essence, you can take your MP3 file now, convert it back to a WAV file, back to 40 megabytes, and then you can also change tempo without affecting pitch. You have both options. In Goldwave.
All right. Charlie reminded me that one of the other advantages to the digital realm of all this is more people can produce music. I mean, there's probably some very talented guys and gals out there who've got ideas for tunes, and they maybe even have a band that can play them. But to throw a big old pile of money out there and not be certain whether or not you'll recover any portion of it has got to be intimidating. If you can put together your song, just have the guys show up in the garage and get everybody in the neighborhood to shut up for a couple hours while you record, make a digital file. You can record it on your computer. You can send Tom and Bill the master and go, dude, see if it sells. I said I was from California. I'm still working with Bill on his dude. He's not quite spitting it out right yet. The accent's not working.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Oh. Anyways, so that's kind of the end of our presentation. We were really hoping that more people would ask questions, and you had some... Oh, okay, I wasn't really hoping for that much.
Please come up front.
Be careful what you wish for, isn't it?
Pat Norwood from Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. On your cue sheets, I notice you have the words, but you do not have the figures. Or you don't plan to put figures on.
Where's my wallet? All right, Bill.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Nice work, Norm.
Dimebeck, Massachusetts. You mentioned two things. You mentioned one thing very frequently, but didn't tell us how it's done. How do you convert WAV files to MP3 and back and forth?
That I can show you.
That's question number one. Let me do the other so I can go sit down before I forget, if it's not too late. Oh, I take it that mini disc players can play MP3 files?
No.
No.
You'll be recording audio out of your sound card.
Audio.
Into the audio in of
I've
your...
heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to analog. Go.
Let me touch on the other side of it, is that, yes, while you're recording to your mini disc, but there's a nifty little player out there for about $139 that plays nothing but MP3.
Fun. And it holds a ton of music. The other thing is, Sony has already put out a CD player that plays your CDs that you buy from the store, and will also play a CD of MP3 files. Cool, huh? Yeah, after payday. But if you think about what is the most number of songs you've ever gotten on a compact disc that you bought at the store? Maybe 20 greatest hits of Kenny Rogers. All right, there's simply not room. A whole flock of MP3 files will fit on a CD, a whole bunch. And if they can now this unit I'm talking about is the kind you stick in your home stereo system. It's a component unit, but if they can make it that size, you know darn well a Walkman's going to be out shortly. Now, a Walkman that will play CDs full of MP3 files would be the coolest. It's already out? Okay, the CD. It has to be a CD. That's what I was just talking about, because that's going to be the option. Don asked about converting this piece of free software that you download from mp3.com. You go to File, Convert, and you can go back and forth from each side here. Tell it where your files are that you wish to convert. You can actually highlight the ones that you want done. And then you click on Start down in the lower right-hand corner, and it converts them. And it'll go back again.
Have you got one that's not converted?
No. Oh, well, yeah, I'll tell you what we can do. Well, we're going to find out in a minute. Let's see, let's kill the one Charlie did. All right, we are deleting an MP3 file off of my drive. Are you sure you want to send Smooth to the recycle bin? Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we'll go, yeah, I know, still the recycle bin. All right, tech head, chill out. Okay, so you notice over here I've got a whole bunch of these WAV files, the monster, ungodly-sized WAV files here on the left, and I have 4 over here, but I've only got 3 MP3 files over here. Smooth is gone. So what we'll do is we'll click on Smooth. We'll click on Smooth and click on Start, and it's happening as we speak. Cool, huh? I don't recall, I didn't stand here and watch it when it happened. Are you going to flip the tape? So I should say anything really inappropriate while you're flipping the tape. Okay. It's going to take me a minute to think of something inappropriate. I'm guessing somewhere around a minute to convert the file from a WAV file to an MP3 file. But truth be told, you guys aren't going to deal with WAV files a whole lot, I wouldn't think, unless you're going to be doing your modifying the song, changing its pitch, changing its tempo. You don't want to do a whole lot of modification of your tune when it's in MP3 format, because it's compressed. It's already compressed, and it's just not going to like it very much. It likes it better if you do it when it's in WAV format.
Tom Perry, Florida. Just going back to the MP3 hardware, just in case anyone wants to know, there are a ton of low-priced MP3 players out there. The only drawback to them, they will hold, the storage device is RAM. They will hold only about one night's program. However, in the second quarter of this year, one company is putting out another one, and in the fourth quarter of this year, another company is putting out another one. And they look at about the same size as a Sony Walkman, except instead of having a disc, a CD, they have a 5.1 gig hard drive. That'll hold all the music in this room that anybody's got in their record case, and you put it all on there, and it has on it a little screen where you can, just like with your computer, you can open files and put songs in different files so that you can program on the fly at the dance. And the other thing that, of course, is out there is Cool Edit. I'm sure you know about that one.
Centrillion software.
Yes, Centillion software has a program called Cool Edit, which is $29.95. In addition, I don't know what is it, Gold?
Gold Wave.
I don't know what they have. I haven't seen that. But Cool Edit, the $29.95 model has 4 tracks. So if you want to download a file or take a WAV file and put it in on track 1, you've got 3 tracks that you can put in harmony voices of your own voice. and then you can sing harmony with yourself. If you can sing with yourself.
I would sing with myself, but the lead vocalist is awful.
Debbie Cedar, Central California. And the only comment I want to make is that, as a perfectionist like yourself might know, people like Vic and myself wouldn't want to buy an MP3 file. We would want the WAV file from the beginning. Because the WAV file is the file that you want to use to modify pitch, to modify tempo, whatever you want to do with it. Again, if you're getting a compressed file, an MP3 file from the beginning, expanding it out to a WAV file, doing your little changes, compressing it again, you are losing quality. Now, again, we're comparing it with vinyl, which is, sorry, but every time you do that, it's like copying it onto another cassette or something.
Like a Xerox of a Xerox.
A Xerox of a Xerox.
Yeah, the problem is delivering a WAV file to you, the end user, is difficult. That's where the difficulty arises. Cliff?
Cliff Simpson, California. I agree with you, Pat. I wish they'd put out cue sheets like that, because I hate listening to all that circle.
Take him $1 back.
The other beef I have is these people that put out these records with accompaniment. And I don't want to hear all that. And can we, with this stuff, can we get rid of that?
Unfortunately, I don't believe so. You mean a backup vocalist that's on the music side of the record? That's a debate that's gone on for a long time. You know, if you listen to the called side of a lot of records, you hear beautiful background vocalists and all this stuff, and you may or may not want it. Although, truth be told, I could very easily, if I'm putting backup vocalists on the song, I could just as easily produce a second file without it and make it available to you, the end user, with or without. You know, then without doing a whole nother set of record repressing. So it's cost prohibitive if there's pressing involved.
As you know, Hi-Hat put out a series of, I'm taking a guess, 12 records where you had your choice of with harmony and without harmony. The problem with that procedure, from a producer's point of view, inventory, retailer, wholesaler, and retailer's point of view, inventory is, we end up with a lot of stock on the shelf. Digitally, it simply makes no difference. It's another few minutes for the producer in the digital studio to create that second choice. You could say SD301H or SD301, with or without harmony. We can give you your choice of two songs. They would cost the same. They're basically a different tune, basically a different number. And as Ernie did, or at least we added the H's on it, I think he used C. We decided H was more logical for harmony. And we've always named them Hi-Hat, HH5108H to differentiate.
An awful lot of the folks in the room are already using the technologies, and that's terrific, but some of us aren't. I'm not sure. I suspect there are a few people in the room that are saying, like, what? But one of the questions that occurred to me is, I'm not sure where the situation comes in with mechanical licensing and all of that, because you're talking about copying music, recopying music, distributing music. Where does this factor enter into the issue? What concerns do we have, or do the music producers have? Can you address that?
Bill's going to answer that question.
The disclaimer is, I am not a lawyer, and I do not play a lawyer on TV. But after a fair amount of discussion with Harry Fox and everything else, we have an application pending for an internet download license. It's a separate license. I also have, as Tom has, a Harry Fox mechanical licensing account where we respectively buy mechanical licensing for those labels for which we are personally responsible. Okay, and both of us do that, in fact. For the downloads, everything that I will put up on my site that is downloadable will have an annotation on the bottom. There will be a footnote on there. All music sold from this site is properly licensed by the mechanical download is properly licensed by the Harry Fox agency. BMI ASCAP is a performance issue and has nothing to do with that side. There is the mechanical licensing production issue, Harry Fox agency by law, BMI ASCAP by definition that we are all CALLERLAB callers. We have the card in our wallet. Let me mention to you again, or in a slightly different vein, that you can't take music clips from a producer, doesn't matter which label, and put those clips on your site without the music owner's permission. And the producer, whether it's Sonia, Tom or anybody else, they own that music, and you just can't put a music clip up on there, even for enjoyment. Forget the commercial issue of selling it. You simply can't do it. It's their copyright. They own that version of the song. It's not Bing Crosby singing White Christmas. It's Sonia's version of X, Y, and Z. So you can't put that up there, but all of those songs will in fact be licensed, and we have license application pendings for the 4 tunes, the ones that you saw up there, and for the 3, I believe, that we had talked about. So I have 7 license applications in right now. And until I have those licenses physically in hand, I will have samples up there, which is perfectly legal, but I will not be able to deliver a download MP3 file.
But it's coming around the bend. It's going to happen.
Don Rouse from Colorado. I'm one of those guys that John was talking about. I picked up a Windows for Dummies. It's not dumb enough. They tell you can do it, but they don't tell you how. How do you learn how to do all this stuff? That's my biggest question.
Well,
I mean, I hear you talking about it, and you do it up there, but
well, you know,
I don't know how.
Yes, there's Bill. Go for it.
Bill Hyman again, and I'm sure everybody else will do it too. There will be an instruction page on my website, an FAQ, frequently asked questions, or how to. I already have some of it structured. It is not on the web at the moment because it wasn't done, but I will put the exact instructions. Take and unwrap the package. As a matter of fact, we sell large audio equipment to commercial installations and fitness facilities, and our instructions, which are sometimes 7 pages long, begin with those immortal words, unpack the boxes. We really do. You can't, all kidding aside, you can't make any assumptions. There is a wide spectrum of computer familiarity in this room, and we will go from the lowest common denominator, not a critical comment. I was there 4 years ago, so I know the feeling really well, to give you very specific instructions. This, file, options, save, convert, or just record. Plug an 1/8-inch mini in here, 1/8-inch mini in there, hit your record, play, adjust, and so forth. There will be specific instructions.
Don Beck again. Bill, you mentioned that individual callers will not be able to put sound clips on their sites. If they wanted to do that along with their own voice as part of their resume, is there a way they will be able to license that music so that they can do it?
Call Harry Fox.
Something to think is the next step.
If it's just a sample, it should be okay, right? Again, I'm not a lawyer.
Speaking in a non-legal term, it's Bill Hyman again, and I really can't answer that legally. I believe that the sample is not subject to a mechanical license. That's perfectly okay, except the music belongs to A, B, or C producer, just as a caller who's on the road who wants to record his or her own CD has 10 songs on there, and they want to use, for argument's sake, 7 different producers. The common practice in this industry has always been to call up those producers and say, I'm recording a CD that I would like to sell on my tour. May I use your titles A, B, C, and D? To the best of my knowledge, it's never been charged for. I think it's always been, pretty sure, a professional courtesy in the industry because they asked. Because they asked.
Well, who wouldn't want to have Tony singing one of their songs around the world? Wouldn't that just be devastating?
Tony who?
Stu Shacklet. I'm the president of the Kentucky Danes Foundation, and I want to touch on an aspect of additional technology that you haven't talked about yet, and that's taking your 78s and cleaning them, running through a restoration type program that'll restore it to digital quality on the hard drive. We have inherited from the Michael Herman estate, who was a folk dance leader in New York, and we have taken all of the music that he had copyrighted, started in 1950, some 500 tunes, and we've digitally recorded this music on a hard drive. We've digitally cleaned this music of all the scratches, clicks, and nicks, and we have a CD quality, and we've got like 54 CDs that have been produced of this music at the present time. And, of course, we still have the vinyl records, we still have the 45s, we still have the 078s, and we still have the 12-inch records, 78 12-inch, which was the forerunner of the 10 inches. So we've got the old-time fashion stuff. Now, earlier we talked in the meeting over there about the Henry Ford music. That was published in 1928. We have that music still on the old 78 10-inch RPMs. But we have recorded that digitally and cleaned it so it's a usable type music for us. And it's amazing what you can do with this type of technology.
You bring up a very good point. How many have a record that they really like that's old, and they got to buy a new one? Are they thinking about buying a new one?
And you can't.
Well, if it's in press, you might be able to. But you can put it down on your turntable, play it into your computer, use a product just like the one we've been talking about, Goldwave or one of the more expensive products. They have scratch filters, hiss filters, pop filters, and you can pull out of that and come back with a digitally good quality piece of music that you can use for a long time.
Okay. Craig Shucker from Costa Mesa, California. I assume most of what we've been talking about have been singing call type records. I know that on the mini discs and I believe CDs in normal format, you can set some tracks so that you can reset for pattern calls. Is that possible on the MPEG or the MD3s?
MP3 file. I have not messed around with a software-based MP3 player, a Rio, or any of those devices. I don't know if you can set cue points. I know you can set, you all know you can set cue points on an MD player. I can't set cue points on my CD Walkman. In other words, a cue point will allow you to start the song back over again, but not at the very beginning, so that there will be no audible stoppage of your music. When I hit the back button on my CD player to start the pattern record over again, there's about a half a second of gap. Yeah. And it goes back through the intro again. Although if I didn't like the intro, I didn't record it. You know, it's a WAV file up on your screen. I can show it to you. The editing is something you can do, and it's just something you have to learn. The problem with any of this technology is there's nobody out there to teach you how to do it. There's nobody who says, you know, hey, I'll show you how to record MP3s. Bill and myself and Don, and it even goes back on a grander scale to learning how to run a recording studio. You know, I bought this 8-track digital recorder called an ADAT from Oasis. I pulled it out of the box. This is so cool. How do I plug it in? You know, because there's no one out there. A lot of this stuff. I mean, there's people when you went to school, you learned how to read and write and do your arithmetic and all that, and you were taught how to do certain things. But when it comes to the more specialized things, it seems as though there's just no place to learn it. So rely on your friends.
And I came up with a somewhat simpler solution since I needed help on my various websites anyway. I just hired an assistant webmaster. And he just goes in there and he has that double sine wave file, and he says, well, we'll get that get a clean break up front and get that extra space off the front end, and you want it before the heads square through and so forth. We'll cut it here. And I said, no, take it back another beat and a half. Click, click, click. You can do that, fine. Cut, replay, and he brings it up to the front. And this is really a stunning amount of knowledge. He's a professional musician and everything. And I have to tell you, he's 16 years old.
I could take him. I know, you gotta come up to the mic to ask your question. Just use somebody else's name.
Elmer Claycomb from Arizona.
All right.
Is there something wrong with your voice, Pat?
It'll never get that low.
On these different programs, is there something that that identifies what the tempo is as soon as you bring that up, so that you could check these records and then know when you're changing the tempo, or do I stand there and balance like I do normally to see if they're in time?
No, there is no, to the best of my knowledge, the only way you're going to get beats per minute, BPM, is in a MIDI file, a musical instrument digital interface file, and that's not something that square dance callers are customarily going to be dealing with.
Okay.
Some record labels are kind enough to put the BPM right there on the label. Others don't. Cool Edit will do that? Just a darn minute here.
Can you take MP3 files and make them mini disc usable?
Yeah, you gotta go, you play it, and you'll take the audio out of your sound card into the record in or line in of your MD player, recorder.
Does it matter if you're running Windows, Mac, Unix, Linux?
Doesn't matter. MP3 files are MP3 files.
But the program has to
be compatible.
Yeah, that's right. The program ought to be compatible. But when you hit MP3's website and you say, hey, I want to download Music Match, they'll ask you, do you want the Mac version or the PC version? That's it.
Keith Ferguson, Saratoga, California. I'm fundamentally lazy. Now the thing,
Amen.
and the thing I like about vinyl is I buy the record, it comes in the mail, I open it, I practice it a few times, maybe more than a few times, throw it in my record case, get to the dance, put it on, I'm ready to go. The reason I've been avoiding the mini disc is that people I talk to that have it, they spend hours recording their whole record case onto these darn mini discs. What I want is an easy way to go with mini disc, MP3, whatever. I want to be able to say, Bill, I'm willing to pay the cost. I'm willing to pay twice what I pay now for the vinyl.
Ooh.
Send me it on a mini disc.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, that's a one-time expenditure of your time.
But on the other end, what happens if you download it to your laptop, practice it a few times, and take it to the dance? Take the laptop to the dance, plug it into your sound system, and away we go.
Keith, there's Bill Hyman again. There's a legal problem with what you've just asked me to do. The mechanical licensing for vinyl, for example, we buy a license. I buy for 500 records, for example, when I'm buying for a title. I'm allowed to press 500 copies. Doesn't have to be all at once, but I'm entitled to do an accumulation of 500 copies in one media only. If I want to do CD, I have to spend another $37.50 for the next one. That's 7.5 cents a side. If I want to do mini disc, I have to do another $37.50. So that while I can deliver to you the MP3 file for my download clickable rate as a single item, I don't have to up front as the producer's representative pay $37.50 for the mechanical license. We don't know how popular it will be. If I know that I'm going to sell 3 million, the $37.50 times whatever the extrapolation is to a large volume is totally irrelevant in the commercial transaction, but I'm required by law to have the license when I give you a mechanical copy.
Yeah, I can appreciate the legal problem there, and one of the concerns I really do have is that we do this in a legal fashion. I'm just wondering, just like CALLERLAB was able to work out an arrangement with BMI and ASCAP to make it easy for us to get the licenses, is anybody looking into any way that this could be handled for the case of square dancing to make it easy?
I answer on behalf of Tom Dillender, Palomino, Dick Weibel, Buckskin, Rawhide Records. I'm sure others have spoken. I have spoken to the senior attorney at Harry Fox Agency. Simply isn't going to happen. Period. So let's not even go down that route. Let's work within the structure of what it is. It's not a compromising structure. They're interested in the concept of legalized, legal copies. They want their 7.5 cents a copy, $37.50 minimum, 500 entitlement for mechanical repressings, internet license, 7.5 cents a click coming down the line, and we have to settle that pay that on a monthly basis.
In addition, to reiterate what Bill said, when I released my album of original music, it was 9 original tunes that I wrote, plus Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA. I contacted the Harry Fox Agency, and they wanted to know how many CDs I was going to press, how many cassettes I was going to press, and I filled out a form clearly indicating that, and then they billed me based on that. So they want to know the medium that you use.
Bill touched on something earlier, and I'd like to touch on it from a producer's standpoint too, and that's the, for lack of a better word, the music piracy that is going on today. Today we have no control. We sell a record, it goes out, and we have no control to say how many times that record gets duplicated, because there's no indication of who owns all the records. Tomorrow, if it's an MP3 file, we have a list of everybody who's bought that MP3 file. So if it shows up someplace else, you might want to ask the question, how'd you get that? So it's good for the producers to think about. We can start covering some of the costs. We've lost a lot of money over this. I know all of you have. And we want to be able to produce music for you. We want that more than anything else. I've talked to producers that said if it continues, I'll, 1, get out of the business, or 2, the only new music I'll produce is for the guys that record on my label, and we'll have the only new music available. So we got to quit doing that. So the way we can do this is start looking towards the future a little bit. Greg?
One of you mentioned that Cool Edit Pro will give you a beat. It was somebody in the middle of Tom. I just dropped a WAV file into Cool Edit Pro, and it's claiming that the song is running at 120 BPM. And I know for a fact, because I recorded Cold Outside, it was recorded at 128 BPM. Be that as it may, it is possible to change the tempo in Cool Edit Pro without degrading the sound quality, if you're really concerned about the sound quality.
Greg Weber again, Tacoma, Washington. Tom, you can probably tell me this. If you're going to add harmony, your own harmony, do you need a mechanical license to do that?
I wonder how the Padres are doing right now.
You, as well as I, know that if I'm going to get that piece of music, I'm going to add some harmony to it with myself.
I don't think there's any issue. Again, this is not illegal. I can't see how there'd be an issue there. About the right to perform it. Why don't we talk about that after the session, one-on-one?
I may be able to help you, but I need to understand the question. This is Tom Dilliner from Kentucky. The question was, once you download this file, are you allowed to add harmony to it and then go use it at your dances? Is that the question? Right. For your own use. Yes, you are. The law states, according to Harry Fox and in the discussions that I've had, whether you buy the record, whether you download the file, once you've purchased it, okay, and you've paid for it, you're allowed to use that. You're also allowed to change the medium for your own personal use. And you're also allowed to take it out and use it publicly for your performance. Yours only. It's not to be given to your buddy and him go use it. If you take that file and you put your harmony on it, and your buddy wants to use it as a dance, you're in big trouble. Okay? I mean, the law is very strict about that. And Bill's right. These folks are watching us like hawks. And I don't blame them, because it can get out of hand real quick. Okay?
It's going industry-wide right
now. Now, I need to make one more little comment and I'll quit. I've always been a promoter of records, and I'm going to say this, vinyl is not final. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't go into these mediums. We should. We should research and use all of them and make them all practical as possible. I do hope we keep in mind that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of callers that still want to use the records. They're going to cost us more, guys. They're going to cost us more. And I think most of the producers are still going to produce some portion of vinyl. But instead of producing 500 and they only produce 100, you might pay $8 for it. You might pay 10. Now, that's not to run anybody out of the business at all. It's not to make everybody go out and buy a computer or anything else. Some of the stuff is very practical and we want to make use of it. The technology is going to open the doors, and you hit on it a while ago, and I want to make a point. Today we have about 20 producers, and I may be off by a couple. We could have 50 tomorrow. We probably got 25 or 30 in our group that have produced music in the past, want to produce music, have the ability, but flat out don't want to spend the $1,000 to put that record out there. Okay? But at the same time, a lot of the producers will be willing to produce the vinyl at a little more cost. The old story is the jukeboxes. Everybody keeps saying, I talk to people on the street about what we're doing, they think, 45s? They quit making those years ago. And I said, no, they still make 8 out of 10 songs you hear on the radio today. Okay? And we're going to produce a lot of those. We're still going to produce a lot of 45s for you square dance callers. Okay? But the fact is that the jukeboxes out there, the cowboy still wants to walk in, he wants to put his quarter in the jukebox, and he wants to play 3 songs while he's drinking his long neck. Most of those guys are not going to take those jukeboxes out and put CD players in. They're still doing it, and vinyl's still around. The pressing houses, we've only lost about a couple in the last 10 years. I know at least 8 and more that would do it, but you're right. The cost will go up. But this medium is great. I think it's got some real serious potential, but there's still going to be vinyl around for most of us.
And before Vic comes up to the microphone, this meeting is done.
I was going to comment on one other thing. There was an article in one of the magazines recently. I gave Bill a copy. I have a copy for you. But it has gotten much, much larger than the square dance community, the Record Industry Association of America, is now looking at digital downloads as they're going to start tracking this stuff very closely. So we're going to come under that umbrella of scrutiny, even in a small industry, a cottage industry, because they're very, very interested in what's happening today in terms of digital music. And so is ASCAP BMI, so is Harry Fox, so it's going to get tighter. The strings are going to get a little bit tighter, and we're going to have to play the game legally.
Dick Weibel from Rawhide Records just whispered in my ear many nice things, but the one that might be of interest to everybody, see you later, Dick. The one that is perhaps public is at cnet.com, one of the very fine sites on the internet. They apparently have excellent tutorials and articles demonstrating exactly how you can deal with MP3s, which comes back to your question from before, and I will also put a link to that site. CNET, letter C, net.com. Vic?
Vic Cedar, California. I've been using MP3 files exclusively for the last couple months. And yes, you can do record resets. You can change the tempo. I've worked out a whole system on the computer for doing that. If anybody would like to see me afterwards, I can show that to you.
Super.
Dick Weibel. I just happened to think of something. I don't have the address, but if you want to email me at rawhide-records.com, and you can put producer Dick, whatever you want in front of that, I will send you the URL of a gentleman that has put together a step-by-step process of how to download the equipment, free equipment that you need to do all this, including Cool Edit and all of that. I think his name is Hartley, but it's very simple, very easy to do. And if you want, I'll give you the address if you email me, and then you can go ahead and do it.
Rawhide-records.com.
Yeah, producer at rawhide-records.com.
Tom Dillender in the back has one, and I also have one. The page just isn't published, and it'll go up Thursday or Friday. I have the same instructions. Those two addresses were palominorecords.com, www, of course, and supremeaudio.com. Click on Square Dancing in both cases.
Chuck Jaworski, a couple questions. You said I could take a record, an old record that's kind of worn out. This applies more to round dancing. Some round dances that we use, we speed way up or we slow way down to make them more danceable. And we do that, of course, the vocal, if it's a vocal record.
Sounds weird.
It sounds weird. Are we able to take a record, slow it down or speed it up without changing the vocal?
Well, what you do is you speed it up to where you want it and then readjust the vocal down, or the pitch back down to where it should be.
Okay, so you can do that. Second question is this. A couple days ago, the federal government filed a lawsuit against the University of Indiana, UCLA, and some other university, something to do with this M3Ps. Is that apply to us? Is that nothing to do with what we're talking about now?
Very briefly, there was a website called Napster.com on the internet. It has been the downfall of many university computer systems and networks. It is an MP3 swapping site. There are all kinds of lawsuits getting going. They're being targeted big time, and it is basically all, or mostly all, pirated music where people, and most of the college kids, are recording their CDs, uploading the MP3, and then making it accessible to all. There's apparently, I read literally on the plane coming out here, probably there's some talk where they're going to put it in your own usable library, and there was a suit just filed on that also, where you would only have you as an individual would have access to that library, but since it was on Napster.com's hard drive, it was considered a mechanical copy, and there's a lawsuit pending on that too.
One of the students got 2 years. One of the students got 2 years probation for that.
Wow. Well, we're creeping up on, it's 20 minutes until 5 right now, everybody. If, the three of us are going to be hanging around here, breaking down equipment and talking for a little while. We appreciate you coming out. All right. Thanks, Charlie. Got your handouts? Actually, let's,
Put them in Dutch. Intriguing.
I think that's fair, man. I really do. Open it up. Clear. Go. Yeah.